we will go ahead and start the meeting, and when you're ready, would you take the roll? Jenny?
Mrs. Bohan,
Here.
Dr. Schulman,
Here.
Mrs. Steiner,
Here.
Ms. Gorst,
Present.
Ms. Tremelli,
Here.
Mr. Yekitis,
Here.
and Mr. Conrady.
Here.
Okay, we will go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Dylan, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we will move on to our consent agenda, and we have approval of the regular minutes from the regular meeting held on June 14th of 2023. What is your desire?
Move to approve.
Do you have
Second.
And a second, right? Okay. Any changes to those minutes or questions? Seeing none, we'll take a vote.
Dr. Schulman,
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner,
Yes.
Ms. Gorst,
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli,
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis.
Yes.
Mr. Conrady.
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan.
Yes. And approval of accounts for the month of June. What is your desire?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And we'll go ahead and take the roll.
Mrs. Steiner,
Yes.
Ms. Gorst,
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli,
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis.
Yes.
Mr. Conrady.
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan,
Yes.
Dr. Schulman.
Yes.
No.
Then we will move on to communications from the public. And the board values all comments and will respectfully consider this input in decision-making. However, it is not the intent of the public comment portion of the meeting for the board to enter into a debate or discussion of an issue. Comments in regard to personnel matters are not allowed. Information presented cannot result in immediate action due to the open meetings law, but it could precipitate a future agenda item. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and our board secretary will give a 2.5-minute kind of heads up. And then at 3 minutes, she will ask for you to close off the comments. So with that in mind, I do have several people, or at least a couple of people, who've signed up and asked to make comments. And if there's anyone else besides the 2 that I have, we do have some slips at the back.
By the sign-in table.
And so you can fill one out and just come up the side and see that I get it, and I will include you. I will start with Mary Jo Wheeler. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mary Jo Wheeler-Schuler, and I'm here today to talk about hate. In my family and in our community, hate has no home. On behalf of Moms for Liberty Wood County, I would like to share with you that hate has no home in our organization either. Our main focus of Moms for Liberty is to fight for our kids and hold our school districts and schools accountable. In the last year, our major projects involved getting pocket constitution for all 8th graders in celebration of 9/17 Day. We have also sponsoring Constitution Challenge, in which we challenge each family to break apart and understand the Constitution, including their rights and civic responsibilities. At past meetings, we've had experts on a range of topics from curriculum reform to school safety. Most importantly, we're providing a safe place for parents and teachers to talk about what's really going on in our school district and our community, working together to change it for the better. New this year, we are proud to sponsor a scholarship to be given to a liberty-minded student looking to make the world a better place. We're not crazy people or radicals. We are genuine, normal people who are strong about their schools, care strongly about their schools, and working to make it a better place for our students and our staff. I invite everyone, please, to come to our next meeting, Monday, August 7th, at the Marshfield Community Center, so you can see for yourselves that there is no room for hate in our group, only hardworking, genuine, commitment-minded people for our community. So thank you.
And next, I have Dylan Scheuer.
I brought handouts.
Good evening, board members. Recently, the issue of recognizing valedictorian and salutatorian was brought before the board. My first comment on the matter is that the only rational solution is to recognize one valedictorian and one salutatorian. Any scenario in which there are tiered GPA levels or multiple recipients defeats the purpose of recognizing anyone. This is a hard-earned honor for 2 students, not a participation trophy. Second, President Bohan has recently alleged that in the competition for students to become valedictorian and salutatorian, they miss out on extracurricular and elective opportunities. In my personal experience, this is false. In fact, the students at the top of the class tend to be the most involved students in the school. As evidence for this point, I would like to share the extracurricular involvement of a recent Marshfield High School graduate. This student was an officer in 5 clubs and a member in 8 more. This student managed campaigns for public office, played violin in orchestra, and gave bilingual tours of the high school. This student took 17 AP classes, 10 dual credit classes, 12 honors classes, and 28 courses that are labeled elective. This student took classes ranging from calculus to food science, from business and information technology to anatomy. This student participated in art and music and foreign language while playing a sport and having a job. This student had a well-rounded and rigorous course schedule, and this student is frustrated with certain members of the board and their misinformation. President Bohan, Mr. Yakaitis, I support empirical, fact-based decisions. However, when your facts are from 2010, when this student was in kindergarten, or worse, 1994, a decade before this student was born, I have to question your willingness to really seek facts versus your tendency to cite hearsay that you can only substantiate with your own word. I cannot speak to what happened before I was born or what happened when I was 6 years old, but I can tell you that it is very possible to get a well-rounded education, learn an instrument and a language, and still end up ranked number 1 in the class. I strongly encourage you to seek the course schedules and extracurricular enrollment of other students in the top 5%, and I assure you that my scenario is not an isolated incident. Seek current information, and the claim that academic achievement dampens a student's willingness to be well-rounded becomes less and less realistic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We will move on to, is there correspondence? Okay. And any announcements?
No announcements, just an
Okay,
item
superintendent.
for the superintendent's report. Yeah, I'm really pleased to report out on some great news that I received from our Department of Public Instruction just a couple of weeks ago. My report out relates to our Career and Tech Ed program, and specifically related to a grant program referred to as the Career and Technical Education, or CTE, incentive grant. The Wisconsin DPI has been collaborating for, it's probably about 6-7 years now with Wisconsin Workforce Development to try to support programming at the high school level for direct-to-career opportunities for kids. And our school district in Marshfield High School in particular has been a very active participant in seeking out this grant funding. So a little bit more on the award program that I'm referring to. The CTE Incentive Grant Awards are based upon the number of students who earn certifications in youth apprenticeship and other work-based learning programs. It provides school districts up to $1,000 per student for completion of state-approved certificates. The program has been very successful and typically gets more requests from school districts than the $1,000 per student available. This year there were enough claims submitted by school districts that the grant funding ended up coming in at $705.44 per student. So the current awards that were announced just 2 weeks ago are based upon, it's a year removed, so this is a year ago, our graduating class of 2022. So based on the participation from our Marshfield High School graduating class of 2022, we had 150 students successfully earn more than 200 certifications in various fields of career and technical education. Both of these numbers are new all-time highs for Marshfield High School. As a result, the school district will be receiving over $105,000 in grant funding from this incentive grant to support our programming at the school. The data is pretty fresh, so we don't have comparisons, but just from past years, we typically rank in the top 10 high schools, school districts, in the state of Wisconsin. It's a school district recognition, even though it comes from your high school population. The only school districts that beat us are those that have multiple high schools, places like Green Bay that have 3 or 4 high schools to our 1, each of which is larger than our approximate 1,200 students. And yet we have roughly half of our graduating seniors earning industry-recognized certifications. I just think that that is an outstanding accolade. And as wonderful as that accolade is in garnering grant funding to help support our CTE program, our students have earned extremely valuable work experiences in career areas within our community that are facing workforce shortages. This is everything from the healthcare, childcare, nursing, automotive, information technology, agriculture, and manufacturing, just to mention a few. Our students are participating in all kinds of different career fields that earn these certifications. So we're especially happy to know that this grant funding goes back directly in helping support these activities, things such as MHS Career Explorer, World to Work field trips for students and staff, professional development for our CTE teachers, and the acquisition of equipment and supplies that will help the school district continue to provide additional industry-recognized certifications for future Marshfield students. So again, I think that that is great news. We're at the top in the state, and this year we have even better numbers. Again, all-time new highs for our high school. So I think that's great for our CTE program and great for our kids and great for our business community all the way around in our community. Good news. Thank you.
It's not only good news, but as a board member, I just wanting to congratulate. Oh, it's not on. Okay, sorry. As a board member, I just want to congratulate our students too, because we do have a very special student body, and I recognize that. And so it's kind of the proud parent type feeling that as a board member feeling. So thank you.
Francis, our CTE committee, bar none, is one of the best. They truly are.
We will move on to gifts and donations, and we have a nice list of donations to accept. For Grant Elementary, $3,500 from the PTO for playground equipment, $125.86 from the PTO for field trip busing. For Madison Elementary, $150 from the PTO for the 6th grade track day. For Washington Elementary, $350 from the PTO for 6th grade track day. And then for the boys basketball program, $200 for Mittens Furniture, Appliance, Electronics, $1,000 for Marshfield Convention and Visitors Bureau, $250 from Easy Fit Mantles LLC, doing business as Fireplace Supply. For the boys golf program, $1,000 from Terry Franklin for golf bags. For the softball program, $1,202.48 for coach bus upgrades. And for the FFA program, $6,658 from the Marshfield FFA alumni and $500 from Chile Implement. What is the board's desire regarding these bids?
Accept with great thanks.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
And we will take the vote.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Ms. Giacchides?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Ms. Steiner?
Yes.
We will move on to committee reports, and curriculum and instruction did not meet this month. So we will go to facility, safety, and transportation. Mr. Conrad.
All right, to start off with, we had some discussion about the pickleball courts. And with the public always asking me, I am not a professional. I don't know that much about pickleball, but I am learning. So with that, the Second Serve campaign has been successful with fundraising the dollar amount needed to complete the project. The district plans to move forward with the project. You will be hearing more of this coming from finance here very shortly. So with that, then we talked about the long-range facility planning. A debriefing session was held with the Community Planning Committee to gather feedback regarding the process and approach used for the latest facility referendum. Overall, the group liked working with Bray Associates on the needs assessment, appreciated input received from staff, and the opportunity for building tours. Elements identified by the group as to why the referendum may not have been successful included better prioritized needs assessment, better communication plans as to how the list of prioritized needs was developed. The group is interested in engaging with no voters to try to get a sense of what type of plan would be supported going forward. So, and then with the next steps coming from the committee, continue to study facility needs using a different approach and expanding the community committee. Members of the facilities committee consented to move forward with issuing a request for a proposal. So with that, I have a action item to approve a request for proposal for facilities planning services to assist with long-range facility planning action, or planning. So what that means is we'd like to put this back up for quotes. Brand Associates can quote it, and other firms can quote it, and hopefully bring in another set of eyes or braids with a different outlook to what we're doing here and looking at our future here. So that is what I have for a motion. So, brought on by committee.
So we have a motion on behalf of the committee to allow them to proceed with the request for proposals for facility planning services. Is there any discussion, questions for Mr. Conrady?
Is there a cost associated with the RFP?
There is, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we currently have $20,000 budgeted in the fiscal year '24 budget. That would be one of the items that would be included in the request for proposal that is sent out, is asking what a fee structure would look like from groups that would be interested in working with the district on the planning.
Okay. So the issuance of the RFP doesn't cost us any money, but it would cost us to have somebody come in and do it.
If we do end up
If
having a
we do end
proposal
up
that
having
we
a
were to
proposal.
approve.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is, we did talk in committee a little bit about how that process would work. There's no cost other than advertisement, because this is typically advertised in the media. So there would be advertisement costs. I think when we looked at it previously, Sam, I think it was around $600 in advertisement costs when we did this previously, but beyond that, then we take the proposals, they come in, we review them, and last time we went through this process, the committee did do interviews with we narrowed the proposals down to 3 groups, and the 3 groups did a in-person meeting to review their proposal and take questions from committee members, and the committee did bring forward a recommendation to the board. That proposal includes what the cost would involve, and that would be an action item for the board at the requested cost for the services.
Any other questions?
I just want to clarify that what they're doing in their proposal is not giving sort of a broad sweep estimate. It's just specific. It is in their RFP. Okay, so we will be getting from 3 people, or possibly 3, come to more, their broad look at what the needs are that we've got documents out there, and they might give a broad estimate of what this cost might be.
Well,
That's part of the request for proposal.
Yeah,
that'll get narrowed down later.
Right, we'll get narrowed down later,
Yeah.
but when we do offer them, but we do have that opportunity to just get the idea of whether a different set of eyes is kind of viewing this whole project differently after those proposals come in. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, then we will take the vote on the motion to approve the RFP for facility planning services.
Mr. Melly?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Anything else?
No, that is all they have.
Thank you.
Can I interrupt for just a moment?
Yes.
I think out of courtesy, we should probably introduce our new business director to the people. We haven't done that, really.
And since we're at the beginning of the finance committee
Right,
report,
this makes
that's
sense.
a good time.
You can
Okay.
introduce.
I'd like you to check.
Sam's loving this opportunity to be put on the spot, but what Mr. Yekites is referring to is that we do have a newly hired actually back earlier in the year, but starting effective with July, a new director of business services, who is Samuel Lehman. Sam, if you want to just kind of wave to the group, sitting over off to the side, we really appreciate and are excited to have you on board, and would like to welcome you on board to work with us here in the district. You've been on for a couple of weeks now, but this is your first official board meeting, so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will turn it over to Dr. Schulman for the report for the finance committee.
Excellent. I'm apologizing in advance because my committees are up for about 80% of the action items tonight. So starting with finance. We had a pretty busy finance. We've got several items for approval brought out of committee. First one, we spoke about the supplemental pay. Annually, the board discusses supplemental pay for credentialing for the professional teaching staff. And this year, it was determined that we had about $28,000 and $29,000 to spend on the credentialing pay. This is supplemental income for the teachers, spread across, for all the teachers who are in good standing, basically keeping up to speed with all of their job requirements. And it turns out to be about a 0.2% pay increase, averaging about $104 per FTE of the teachers. We have discretion over this every year. It's been something that we try to do every year in support of our teacher staff, and the committee recommends approval of this resolution for supplemental pay for credentialing for members of the School District of Marshfield professional staff.
Okay. So there is a more detailed resolution that's an attachment within the agenda, so it's kind of long, but you heard the summary from Dr. Schulman. And any questions for her or discussion about that resolution for supplemental pay for the instructional staff?
This is non-base wage increase. This is
And just a comment that this is reviewed every year, and we decide whether we're going to do it every year. So this is not something that is automatic.
correct.
Fully at the discretion of the board.
Anything else? Then we will go ahead and take the vote.
Okay. Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tramelli?
Yes.
Okay, we will move on.
Is it okay to take C and D together as one action item?
As long as no one objects on board.
I'll explain what they are. We're going to ask approval for resolutions for one-time stipends as well for all regular, full-time and part-time, 12-month and 10-month support staff, professional employees of the district. ESSER funds need to be spent by next September 2024. Part of the budgeting of that allowed us to offer stipends to our employees over the next school year. We broke it down into we have 10-month employees who are generally support staff, and year-round employees, including the professional staff and some 12-month support staff employees as well. So the stipends are a little bit different depending on whether they are 10-month or 12-month. The 12-month employees will be offered a stipend of $2,000 per full FTE. It will be prorated to all part-timers. The 10-month staff are based on a $1,600 stipend. This is, again, a non-base wage, adding one-time only stipend that's being offered. It's being paid out in four increments throughout the year. Breaking it up into 4 payments helps diffuse the tax burden across 2 different tax years. It helps with encouraging retention of staff through the whole year in order to recoup the entire stipend. Again, with recruiting as well. And it really is meant as an augmentation to the wages. Because the CPI was so high this year, we're looking for ways to help offset some of that cost of living. And spreading this out over the year helps supplement the income maybe right when they would be looking to need it. So the Part C is for the 12-month employees, and Part D is for the 10-month employees. They're essentially the same resolution. The number values are different. The 12 months are 2,000 per FTE. The 10 months are 1,600 per FTE. And in fact, we are offering these for approval with one caveat, that under the first section, Part B of each resolution, it reads, the stipend shall be paid out in equal installments of $500 or of $400 4 times a year. We are also amending the motion to take out the words, to take out the piece of 500 or of 400 to cover the fact that it's going to be prorated for part-time employees. We didn't want to lock that in at a set rate, even though it is outlined that it will be prorated. Just to be consistent between A and B, we'd like to take out the dollar. So we'll read, the stipends shall be paid in equal installments 4 times during the following 2023-2024 payrolls.
Okay.
So, is it okay that we vote on it together, or do you guys want me to take these separately?
I'd rather have them separate,
Okay,
since they're both listed as separate action items.
all right. So on behalf of committee, I bring forward the resolution for one-time stipends for School District of Marshfield professional and 12-month employees for approval.
Okay. So we have the motion on behalf of committee. Are there any other questions or comments on this?
Just a comment that this is a one-time thing, and it specifies that.
And I might add to that, when the legislature did the biennial budget for last year and this year with no increase per pupil, they pointed out that we had ESSER funding to use to fill that gap. So this is in line with that intention also. And anything else? And so it's something that makes it, because it's one time, it's not that we have to sustain it year after year. It's the one time.
That's the same comment when we get to item D as well.
Correct. Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions? Then we will go ahead and take the vote on approval of the resolution for the one-time stipend for professional staff and 12-month support staff, or 12 months.
Okay. Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
I would like to bring forth on behalf of Finance Committee, we recommend approval of the resolution for one-time stipends for School District of Marshfield 10-month support staff employees.
Okay. Any questions about that one? Seeing none, we will go ahead and take the vote.
Okay, Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Okay, so the next one is approval of resolution for updates to the District 403B and the 457 plans. Every few years, company is engaged to review the retirement tax sheltered annuity plans offered to staff. Van Briesen and Roper reviewed the current plans thoroughly. There were multiple minor changes made to the details in both plans. A lot of them were syntax, structure, minor changes, and any statements that were thrown in were added to add clarity or more specificity to the rights of the participant, the plan participants. There really was no salient change in either plan, and after review, the committee is bringing it forward for approval.
So we have a motion on behalf of the committee to approve the resolution for the updates to the District 403B and 457 plans. Any questions about those?
I believe also this, it was reviewed by the attorneys to make sure that we're in compliance with any changes in federal law.
And they specialize in benefits.
They specialize in benefits.
Anything else? Okay, then we will take the roll.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Ms. Giacchides?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Okay, next is Marshfield Schools getting a new pickleball court and tennis court improvement project. This has been discussed. There is a community group that is actively fundraising and has fundraised a lot of the cost of building the pickleball court and helping resurface and improve the tennis court area. The first item for approval is basically approving the agreement for the construction, that we will move ahead with the construction of the Marshfield High School pickleball court and tennis court improvement projects. We are contracting with Bozen to do this work, and should I explain all the finances in this one? Or the next one?
I did a question.
The next one.
Yeah.
The first one is just approving that the project is to go forward,
Right.
and the next
Yeah.
one is the
The
funding.
intent is to see if we have approval on a project before we
Before we
decide
talk
whether we're
about
going to
that,
finance
okay.
it or not. Yeah.
All right, so on behalf of committee, we recommend approval of the agreement between the owner and the contractor to build the Marshfield High School pickleball court.
Okay, so that is a motion from committee. Any discussion or questions about that agreement to go forward with the project?
Just quickly, I've been asked about some of the things that have been built under the athletic funding situation that we have. And note that this is another situation where an outside group has decided to come forward to fund this project. There will be some, as in the next action item, there will be some bridge funding that the district will be allowed, be providing to help facilitate that building. But this is another group from the outside that has decided to build or asked to build the pickleball courts. And the district is happy to have it.
And the Second Serve Committee has really, well, first with the tennis courts some years ago, really added value not just for our students but for the community with those courts. And this is in the same vein of wanting to add value to both the students' lives and the community at large. So it's an outside fundraising group.
Yeah, the project is approximately $450,000 worth of work, and the district's contribution is $50,000. So that's an 8-to-1 privately funded. And the $50,000 allotment that the school district has budgeted was money that we were planning to, part of this is resurfacing the existing tennis courts, which was a facility improvement need we had already, and actually it cost more than $50,000. So they're actually helping us pay for the resurfacing of the tennis courts on top of the new infrastructure that would be going into place.
And the Boson family headed up a lot of the fundraising both times also. So
And I just
we
want
are
to,
grateful.
pickleball used to be, I thought, sort of an older person sport, but that is so not true. That there's now we got some here in the room that are really enjoying pickleball, and so I think this will be something wonderful that could be added to the the FIED or just having it available nearby. If someone wants to teach me the rules, I am totally lost, so.
Mark and I will promise to come play at the dedication.
That's for,
Well, I think some other highlights to this, or one of the main ones, is having a permanent bathroom facility at the tennis complex, which we have not had since it was built. So it'll be nice to have that. And just from a timeline standpoint, our intent is to get the resurfacing of the tennis courts done in time for the fall season that's coming up. We all know that getting any work done is a challenge, so we're keeping our fingers crossed and being able to meet that. But as far as groundbreaking on the additions, specifically pickleball court installation, the parking lot, bathroom facilities, things of that nature, it could be as early as the end of the month of July that they would start work on that, and hopefully have the project done before the snow flies, keeping our fingers crossed.
And to the bathroom work, as you're talking, the restroom area, that had been looked at already a couple years ago when they started building the apartments back there, and they come in with the road. Buildings and Ground and our director, Aaron, looked at it, said, hey, let's get the plumbing and the water mains and everything brought in so that that stuff is in there while the city's building the road. So that stuff was all pre-planned, got put in, so moving forward, it's gonna help putting the restrooms and everything in and keeping the costs down.
We gotta give Ron the credit on that one.
Ron Stromsky, yeah, but
Good job, Ron.
that just goes to show you the pre-planning that is done throughout the whole school district as we see things and working with the city.
So there.
anything else? Then we will go ahead and take a vote.
Okay. Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Forst?
Yes.
Ms. Tramelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes, provided I don't have to play the first game.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
And Dr. Schulman?
Yes. Okay, now that we've approved the project, let's figure out how we're going to help them get it started. We know how it's going to get paid for. As Ms. Bohan had alluded to, the Community Foundation, specifically the Pickleball Fund, the Second Serve group, has already done a bang up job of fundraising. They've already raised over $243,000. Our $50,000 is the contribution is already part of that. They also have commitments of about $164,000 for future years. Donations are all going to should be recouped by December of 2025. But if we want to move forward and we need to get some upfront funding to get going, they still need to fill in about $196,000 to $200,000 gap right now between what has been raised and the current cost estimate of about $442,000. It was recommended that we recommend that we set aside $250,000 from unassigned fund balance to earmark it for this project. In the general fund, we do have the dollars to cover this without, to allow this for a short-term bridge payment, so we can get started. And it's $250,000, so the total is going to be closer to $500,000, just to allow a little bit of like a $50,000 buffer, sort of, for either cost overruns or to be used and set aside in the future for future updates or maintenance, other cost sharing needs that may come up between the Second Serve and the school district. Given that we fully anticipate that bridge payment is going to be reimbursed over the next 2.5 years, the committee feels comfortable asking for approval for the bridge payment to cover the construction costs for the Marshfield High School pickleball courts and tennis court improvements.
Okay, so we have a motion on behalf of committee for the bridge funding by doing a reallocation of $250,000 of unassigned fund balance to assigned fund balance for purposes of the bridge fund financing the construction costs of the Marshfield High School pickleball courts and tennis court improvements. Any questions for the committee?
And I think it bears repeating your last comments that this money will be repaid to the school district.
Over a couple of years.
I'd like to add just maybe a little bit more detail to that. The reason being what's driving this is we have a number of people in groups that are pledging donations, are looking to spread those payments out over a 3-year period. So if you imagine somebody pledging $60,000, they want to pay $20,000 now, $20,000 next year, and $20,000 in the third year after that. That's why the district is looking to bridge the financing on this, so we can get the project done now and get reimbursed over the next couple of years as those pledges continue to come in.
And they've already been pledged $407,000, and they tend to continue and hopefully over fundraise, so there also is that buffer in the long run to help with future needs.
Because at this point in time, the fundraising has been a quiet campaign. They haven't really gone, very public with this, and they've done very well. So their goal is to exceed the amount and have some additional funding that will stay at the community foundation to be available down in the future for additional maintenance needs that may come up down the road.
Anything else? Okay, then we will go ahead and take roll on that motion.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
And although that was it for the action items, we did talk about a budget update now that the governor has signed the biennial budget. Couple of good points came through with that. Because of the budget has earmarked extra dollars for mental health services to the tune of about $31 per student, which for our district means about $114,000 coming to the Marshfield School District. We are able to reinstate an interventionist position at Grant School to help. So that's very positive outcome indeed. There were some adjustments to the budget that we will be seeing over time. The retention pond bids came in a little over what we had expected. And so that will be adjusted in the budget by about $21,000, but it needs to be done. Apparently it's underway. So there are, and due to the significant increase in the tuition voucher costs, it's not going to affect cash or expenditures, but that may play into the tax levy issue going forward through no fault of our own. The cost, school tuition voucher costs, but there'll be more of that when we come down to the final budget. And there are 3 scoreboards at the high school that need to be replaced because we can no longer get parts for them. We have 4 scoreboards. We're going to keep the 3 that we replace for spare parts for the 4th one in the new gym. So because that was rolled under the referendum for the improvements, it's now coming back into the budget. So it's about $38,000 to replace the scoreboards that are no longer working. And then we reviewed the budget variance over the whole year, and it came in. I was a little disappointed. We were off by 0.64%, but that was under budget.
Well, we can always improve.
We were under
We
budget.
can always improve.
We could improve.
To the black.
To the block. I'm looking to get a little closer.
That's actually amazing.
Yeah, that is
Yes.
really close.
Sam has promised to do that, but
Even better.
We're pretty spot on with budget this year. So. And that was the end of finance committee.
Okay, and just by way of explanation, we were talking about the voucher increases from the state legislature in the biennial budget. For people that don't realize it, that when you see your tax bill, it gets taxed for the Marshfield School District, and then we pass the money along to the private schools. So not all that money comes just for the school, our school district, the public school district, that the portion for vouchers comes out of our budget then to be passed on to the private schools. And over the years, we started out like at 35,000 or something, and now we're $1 million something, and that this increase, it will be a steep increase in how much money comes out of the taxes that we get and pass along to the private schools.
And it is not a line item on the tax bill.
Right, and so you don't see
won't see
that,
that.
that's why I'm explaining, you don't see that on your tax bill, you see it as coming to the public school district, but it goes from us back out to the private schools, the way the state has set up.
What was it this past year? What was the amount that went out for vouchers?
1.3,
I think that's right.
Yeah, 1.3 million.
something about just over 1.3 is my memory, so don't.
When it was like just
Now,
over 100,000 about 8 years ago.
I think we started out at 85.
Yeah, just do a quick review on the numbers. When you had mentioned, Francis, this started in 2016, 17, and the initial year was about $58,500, so just short of $60,000 when this started in 16, 17. Last year, Marshfield School District property taxpayers were levied for $1.16 million. For the private voucher program, and we're, 1.3 million, that was last year, was 1.3 million. And we are projecting a steep increase. We're projecting that to go up about more than double. I mean, we're talking about $3 million is projected to be levied on local taxpayers for the private voucher program in the Marshfield area on next year's tax bills.
And that's because the biennial budget from the state, it has not just we've already been paying them another $1,000 per pupil, plus if there are more pupils. Yes, so a lot of that has.
And is there a differential in how much per pupil payment the vouchers are for versus what we are given?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, about $700 more per student to the voucher.
The increase that they received per pupil was significantly greater than what the public schools, the $325 that the public schools got.
That's what I wanted to call out. Okay.
It's about $1,000 per pupil on the high school side versus $350 for public school.
And that's important for everybody to know and the public to know too, because with that, at our 300, we still have to pay for all the busing, everything else, plus we got all the special education. They're not required to do any of that, but they're gonna get a lot more.
And we're pointing this out only so that the public understands the finances of it and the way it's billed on the tax bill, because there'd be absolutely no need to even talk about this if they were two separate line items on the tax bill.
And you can see
They're not.
where you
It
went
just
with
all
this.
comes, it looks like it's for the public schools, but a big portion of it goes to the private schools.
And if we could, I just want to bounce back and correct, because I was doing some quick head counting and trying to review through my documents at the same time that we're talking, because I want to be clear and accurate. We're projecting the new amount in total to be $1,732,895. So the overall, this next year is anticipated to go up to and be at about 1.7 million. Yeah, the projected increase for the upcoming year is over 400,000. So I just want to be clear on my numbers. I was looking at different parts of the report here and adding the wrong numbers in my head on the fly. Last year, the tax levy for local taxpayers was 1.3 million, and we're projecting it to be over 1.7 million this next year.
And is that because
For private vouchers.
more private vouchers or the
Because the
increased
amount
cost
went
per
up.
voucher?
The amount went up, and we project, based upon growth in the program that has happened, we do project in an anticipated increase in the number of students that will be funded. So it's both, more students and more funding per student allocated based on the recent change in the law.
Anything else from finance?
That's,
Okay.
no, we're
Then
good.
we will move on to employee relations. Mr. Yukites.
Okay, we did meet. We discussed the professional staff alternative compensation methods. That will be an action item for today. We got some staffing updates overall in terms of how things are going, filling positions and so on for the upcoming school year, and that's proceeding along nicely. The interventionist specialist position, as we've been mentioned before, will be reinstated at Grant School. Registration numbers are being finalized for kindergarten, and the numbers are a little lower this year, but that remains to be seen, because sometimes there are others that come in still over the course of the summer. HR and building administration will be working on filling a few positions due to unexpected resignations over the last couple weeks. Unexpected sounds kind of bad, but it just, people have decided to resign at a later date, not necessarily because there's a bad situation. We talked about the support staff wage increases and proposed compensation. We'll talk about that. That rate will be at a 3.2% increase. And then we also had a closed session to discuss total base wage proposals for administrators and district level staff. Now, going back to the original agenda, if I can find my way, the first item for me will be, on behalf of our committee, the approval of the 2023-2024 bargaining agreement between the board and professional staff. That's an action item.
Okay. So we have that motion on behalf of the committee to approve the bargaining agreement with professional staff and the board for next school year, 2023 to 2024. Any questions? You have that proposal as an attachment.
We did.
Well, oh, no.
There's
Okay.
It's a separate, yeah.
So no attachment.
There's no attachment.
The tentative agreement that the board committee reached with MTA is for a 3% increase on base wages.
Okay.
And the distribution of that to be 3% of the individual teacher's base figure.
For each teacher. Any questions or comments regarding that? Okay, seeing none, we will take the roll.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes?
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Next item is the approval. This is an action item on behalf of our committee. Approval of professional staff 2023-24 alternative compensation methods. And that's being brought forth by our committee.
And that was. So, and so any questions regarding the alternative compensation plan for next year? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and take the floor.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes?
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
This also kind of follows at that point, once the bargaining or the work with the professional staff, the teachers' staff union, by the way, takes place, which we just approved, is also then approval of professional staff. Did I just say that? Alternative.
Support.
I'm on the support staff one, letter D. Approval of wage increases for the support staff for 2023-24. That usually happens in conjunction when the teaching staff pay is established.
So we have a motion on behalf of committee to approve the wage increases for the support staff for 2023 to 2024. Any questions or?
I would just reemphasize and note that the overall increase on the proposal before the board is for a 3.2% wage increase for support staff. The teacher group, the negotiated base wage increase was 3.0. The credentialing that was approved in finance equates to about a 0.2%. So total 3.2% is about what is going to individual teachers between base and supplemental for returning wages. So we have a group proposal for support staff that falls in line with the teacher group at a total of 3.2%.
Anything else?
I just wanted to refer back to the finance action items that we had, the two that were offering a one-time compensation for staff. And we were talking about this, that if we put those together into the total package for next year, it brings it to about a 7% increase for next year.
If you include the
If you
one-time.
include the one-time compensation package.
Anything else? Then we will go ahead and take a roll.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes. Finally, approval of wage increases for administrative and district level staff. That includes our principals, assistant principals, and so on, and district level administration. And that is also an action item, and I move to approve those wage increases for administrative and district level staff.
Okay. So we have that motion on behalf of committee to approve the wage increases for administrative and district level staff. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take the vote.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
No.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes,
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Anything
I'm done
else?
for now.
Okay. Then we will move on to policy and legislation. Mrs. Steiner.
Okay. And so we met on June 28th, and we were doing a second reading of the items that we had on our first reading last month. So those have now been approved and brought forth to the board after a second reading for approval. So I'm just going to go through those. And there's, so the first item is just, it's a package of definitions for the terms, new definitions that have been added for the terms legal notice and official newspaper, as those terms have been referenced in various policies and this revision is recommended. So that's one. Can we just go ahead and do the action?
Sure.
Okay, so I'd like to bring that forth from the committee for approval by the board.
Okay,
Policy.
so on
One.
behalf of committee, we
Yes.
have a motion to approve 0100, which is definitions in the policy. Any questions or comments about that? We will go ahead and take the roll.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Okay, our next item is item C, approval of policy number 0175, association membership. So this came about because of a 2022 action by the National School Board Association that it was a letter that was written to President Biden, and it was considered to be out of line for the national board to do that without consenting with the state associations. And as I read today, some 30 state associations have removed their membership from that. It was basically asking the federal government to assist with protests at school board meetings and calling that domestic terrorism. And that's, well, I mean, multiple school board associations at state disagree with that. Everyone has a right to its free speech, and it should be allowed, and we don't need federal assistance to control that. So that was felt to be rather out of line. So what has happened in the subsequent years is that there are other, well, subsequent, not even a year actually, that there are other associations forming to offer us an alternative when there was sort of, you know, kind of a vote of no confidence for the current national association. So this is a change of policy to allow us the latitude to join another association.
Okay.
So I'm bringing that forth for board approval from the committee.
Okay. Any questions regarding that?
I guess I would just add for that the district, the board has chosen not to affiliate with a national group, but if a future board would to, based on the policy, there's an additional option and choice.
We'll get that latitude, yeah.
Anything else? Then we will go ahead and take the vote.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst? Yes. Ms. Tramelli?
Yes.
Ms. Giacchides?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Okay. So the next, the next next two items, policy 2210 and policy 2220, I'd like to discuss together and put those forth together if we can, because they're very much related. So policy 210, we had a recommendation for revising that to more closely align with the DPI regulations pertaining to curriculum and curriculum development and content, as well as to reference the review process. The policy incorporates references to innovative instruction design concepts and a cross-reference to innovative instruction design policy, programming policy. And so they suggest that we do adopt that and add some applicable legal citations to that. That is in conjunction with policy 2220, which is the adoption of courses of study. And this policy has also been revised to be in coordination with 2210 to better reflect the DPI regulations, and has some sightings added to it as well. So it's recommended that we bring forth both of those for board approval, both 2210 and 2220.
Okay, so
On behalf of the committee.
we have the motion on behalf of the committee to approve policies 2210 and 2220, which are curriculum development for the first one and adoption of courses of study for the second one. Any questions or comments regarding any of that? Seeing none, we will take them.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tramelli?
Yes.
Ms. Giacchides?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes. So the next item is item F, which is board approval of policy number 2221, which is special observance days. And that, I was sort of surprised that we didn't have this already, but it's revised, this policy's been revised to align with the current state law that specifies that September 11th as a special observance day, as well as certain provisions for Arbor Day. So I'm bringing that forth from the committee for approval by the board.
Okay, so we have the motion on behalf of the committee to approve 2221 about special observance days to bring it in line with the state. Okay. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, I do. I went through this list, I wish I'd went through it a little finer before tonight. But I go through this list and I don't see December 7th in here. And that really irritates the heck out of me.
Did you see it in the list of observances and patriotic observances? Did you see it at the end?
Yeah, I seen patriotic observance, but I didn't see nothing for December 7th. I understand patriotic
Okay, so,
observance.
yeah, I just wanted to check and see.
I'm just, I guess I don't need to add it now, but for the future, I would like to just to have that possibly come back in the future,
So we can,
Yeah, we can add additional ones, Mark. Certainly the listing here was updated to coincide with what's specifically delineated in state statute.
yeah, with the governor. I was surprised to read that the governor actually said this.
and it's an extensive list. I was
Yeah.
surprised by how many we have, but yeah, I agree with that. That does make sense to have.
And a guy could go, I mean, a person could go on and on and
Well,
on,
yeah.
but
That's cool.
thank you.
Sure.
Actually, this isn't a list made by the governor, it's a list that's in the statute, so we have to make sure that we conform to the statute.
At least these ones, but we could add others for our own district if we wanted.
This is a minimum, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a minimum requirement, so we can certainly add something if we want to. So we can bring that up in policy. Regular action. I mean, so, a future item, yes, a future item. So,
Anything else before we vote? Then we will go ahead and take the vote on it.
Ms. Tramelli?
Yes.
Ms. Giacchides?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes,
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
yes,
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
okay. The next item G is it's four policies brought together because the language is identical about the use of tobacco and nicotine by staff, students, and on school premises. So each of those items deals with a particular group or place. So I would like to bring that forward. It just basically is revising this, specifically prohibiting prohibiting smoking as intended in reference to marijuana and hemp derivatives within the context of smoking. This provides the district more authority to control the use of these partially legal products that are nonetheless mood-altering substances that impact students in our school. So I'm bringing those four policies, 3215, 4215, policy 5512, and policy 7434 before the board on behalf of the committee for approval.
Thank you. So we have the motion on behalf of the committee to approve the four policies that deal with use of tobacco and nicotine. Any questions regarding that? Any comments? Seeing none, we will take the
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Tremelli?
Yes.
Next is item H, which is the approval of policy 5200 on attendance. And we needed to do some changes to this, incorporating the definitions of key terms for both purposes of this policy, which these definitions are required in order to enforce truancy requirements and potentially to enforce open enrollment termination provisions in the context of habitual truancy. So we just need to make sure we have that available to us, and the language needs to be changed. And it was this is strongly recommended by our advisors on our from Neola that we do approve this. It gives us good protection.
So we have a motion on behalf of the committee to approve policy 5200 regarding attendance. Any questions regarding that? Comments? And we will take the vote.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Forrest?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Next is item I, which is the approval of policy 5330, the administration of medication and emergency care. And so that is basically updating the policy to clarify the options and include revised language regarding the storage of medications in the schools. And this is also recommended that we, for approval, to be consistent with current practices in our school. So on behalf of the committee, I'm bringing forth policy 5330, administration of medication and emergency care for approval by the board.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve policy 5330 regarding administration of medicine and emergency care. Any questions or comments?
Tiny note on page 2, where we had gone through this policy and put parent/guardian.
Oh, yeah.
We're missing the guardian.
Oops, okay.
Both the parents, both the students' parents and practitioner. But maybe it should be both the parents, students, with and practitioner, second page.
Second page, okay. And then
The bottom of the green.
of the green, okay.
Sorry, I just noticed.
Both the students, parents,
Slash
slash
guardians.
guardians, and practitioner. Did you get that, Jamie?
No, okay, I've got it here, so bottom of the page.
Page
No,
2,
it's-
top of the
no,
page, green.
Top of the
paragraph.
page, in the green highlight of page 2.
I think just the noting with that smaller. It's-
Students,
it-
parents.
It's more
I got it.
editorial.
That's just a
It
small.
just got missed because we actually addressed that in
Right.
the.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So that brings it in line with what the
With
committee
everything else.
intended.
And what
to
to
be.
be content, yes, yeah, I'm
So
sorry.
it's an editorial.
Thank you, Karen, for the on
So with that editorial change in mind, we will go ahead and take a vote. With that being noted,
Mrs. Bohan?
yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
that. Yes.
Ms. Forrest?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
You're over half height.
Okay. So, I can start singing it. I don't know, something to change the monotony of my voice, I apologize. So next, item J is the approval of 5517, the student anti-harassment policy. And so this also was revised again for consistency with the laws and regulations regarding student anti-harassment. So I bring it forth from the committee for the board to approve.
So we have the motion on behalf of committee to approve policy 5517 on student anti-harassment. Any questions or comments about that? Seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
All right.
Carry on.
Approval of 74, no, we don't need to do that, because, yes, we do, yes, we do. Okay, approval of 7440, facility security. There's language that's been added to this particular policy to reflect the Court of Appeals decision, which permits searches of non-student vehicles and visitors on our school property under certain circumstances. And we're adding, there's a reference, the State versus Vang, 398 Wisconsin 2D 311. I don't know what CT stands for or what APP stands for. 2021. The pertinent case, that is the citation. So on behalf of the committee, I am bringing this forth to our board for approval.
Okay. So on behalf of committee, we're being asked to approve policy 7440 regarding facility security. That allows the search of non-student or staff vehicles.
And visitors, you know, I mean, and their person.
Right.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments? We'll take the vote.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Okay, item L is policy 8405, environmental health and safety program. And this is also a policy that was revised to more closely align with statutory requirements for developing an indoor environmental quality plan. And additional and updated citations were added for that. So on behalf of the committee, I bring this forward to the board for approval. Policy 8405.
So the committee is asking the board to approve policy 8405 regarding environmental health and safety program. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll take the roll.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes. Excuse me. So now we have item M, approval of policy 8450, control of casual contact communicable diseases. And this, again, it's sounding very similar. Revisions are made to this policy to more accurately reflect statutory requirements and authority granted to certain school staff and required action found in the state statute 252.21 in Wisconsin statute. Also bringing forth on behalf of the committee for the board to approve.
Okay, so the board is being asked to approve policy 8450 regarding control of casual contact communicable diseases. Any questions or comments? We will take the vote.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes, excuse me.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Then I'm going to actually talk about N and O together, and I'd like to take those together because one relates to the other one. So policy 8800 and a new policy, policy 8802. So policy 8800 is religious activities and observances, and we've done some revisions to reflect the Supreme Court decision Kennedy versus Bremerton School District, in which the court clarified the equal importance of and the interaction between the Constitution's two First Amendment clauses pertaining to religious rights. The Bremerton decision reinforces employees' rights to the free exercise of religion, such that a First Amendment analysis regarding district actions, discipline, or censorship must consider whether the employee is exercising the staff member's free exercise rights. So as a practical matter, the analysis really remains unchanged. However, the court clarifies that school district officials were not entitled to err on the side of avoiding a violation of the Establishment Clause. The policy reflects, the policy is also revised by removing the U.S. flag observances and placing those into a separate policy that is 8802. So that's where we're going to take them together. We created policy 8802 because of removing the U.S. flag observances and putting them into a separate policy. So on behalf of the committee, the policy committee, I bring forth policy 8800, religious activities and observances, as well as the new policy 8802, patriotic activities and observances, to the board on behalf of the committee for approval.
So this motion on behalf of the committee would approve policies 8800 and 8802, which refer first to religious activities and observances, and the second one to patriotic activities and observances. Any questions or comments regarding either of those or both of them? Okay, then we will go ahead and take the vote.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Mr. Mellon?
Yes.
Anything else? Mrs. Steiner?
No.
I am done. Then we will move on to new business, and we will start with approval of retirements and
No, there are
retirements we have. So then we will move on to resignations, and Mr. Yekitis, as Employees Relations Chair, would you like to take the lead on that?
These approvals will need a second, as I put them forward as a motion from an individual board member. That's to approve the resignations of Jeff Bell, teacher of physical education at the high school, Austin Hazelow, custodian, second shift at Lincoln, Allison Kunert, a teacher of music at Grant, and Brant Ritter, a teacher of alternative education at the alternative school. That will need a second.
Second. So do we have a second?
Yes, Kathy.
Kathy, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve these four resignations. Any questions or comments? We'll take the vote.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes, and we move on to employment of new personnel. Same thing. As an individual board member, I put forth the employment of new personnel as follows, and this will need a second as well. Paige Higgins, the athletic trainer for the District of Marshfield. Abigail Schulteis, teacher of instrumental orchestra at Mill Elementary. And Leah Whipperfirth, I like that name, Whipperfirth, school counsel at the high school.
So we need a second on that motion.
Second.
Thank you.
I heard two voices.
Karen.
Karen. Thank you.
So we have a motion to approve 3 new hires for new employment, and any questions or comments about that?
I just want to make note that we had some rumors that were flying around the community about eliminating orchestra at the middle school, and that was a rumor. It was false. As indicated here, we are hiring an instrumental teacher. So we can dispel all that false information by looking at our employee report.
Anything else? And we'll go ahead and take the vote.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
No.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Whipperfirth.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Whipperfirth.
Okay, we will move on to what we have to do on an annual basis, which is make the declaration and parent notice of the district's student academic standards that will be in effect for the 2023 to 2024 school year. And this is pursuant to state statute, section 120.12.13 and section 118.30, 1G and A1. So I need a motion.
Not a motion.
We
It's not
don't.
actually,
It's
we're just,
just
it's just a post.
So is there any discussion or comment regarding this, letting the public know that we have our standards always on the website, et cetera. And if anybody needs help finding those, anybody on the board or in the central office.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I just tried to go on, I clicked the website documents and it's taking me to my email.
It seems to be tied to your email.
It seems to be tied to our email.
What is?
The document,
Yes.
yeah.
The folder, it was directing me to a folder when I uploaded that link, something must have happened in the
Okay,
meantime.
so we should probably, get that corrected.
We will get that correction.
And that's off of your board docs that you're referring to. I guess I'll just add,
But it has not looked like
especially
this.
for our audience and people watching by video, that the two quickest ways, if you go to our, to get access to our standards and curriculum on our school district website, you go to our main splash page or launch page. The very upper right-hand corner, there's a tab titled Academics. Alternatively, middle and slightly off to the right in the gray area, there's a Families tab. If you click on the Families tab, you'll get to the same location. From there, you've got a page that on the banner along the left side says curriculum/academic standards. And they're all, from there, it'll take you to the full listing that we have for the school district.
There's also a quick link on the right that says academic standards.
Correct.
And so that's also,
So
take
at
us there
this
to the.
point in time, unless there's anything else, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I put the motion forward.
Oh, okay.
Thousand.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Number at least 6. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, you can turn your microphones off as well.
Well,